Chapter 1. Opening the Eye. Two boys stood in the center of a dome of mirrors made of ice. The first had black hair and wore a blue shirt and khaki shorts. He had red eyes as a result of his newly awakened blood limit, the Sharingan. He had two tomo in his right eye and one in his left. As a result, he was now able to catch glimpses of his opponent as he passed above them above their heads. He skillfully dodged, volley after volley of Senbon needles, though with each attack 2 or 3 would strike him in various places all over his body. He was the pride of Konoha, the last prodigy of the once almighty Uchiha clan. His name, Uchiha Sasuke. The second boy had bright blonde hair, vivid sapphire eyes, and wore an orange jumpsuit. He wasn't faring nearly as well as his teammate. He also had 3 whisker-like birthmarks on each cheek. While he did his best to dodge the Senbon, he was not agile enough, nor could he see the minute needles unlike his partner. He was lucky if 2 or 3 Senbon from each attack missed him. He was the bane of Konoha, as well as its number 1, hyperactive, unpredictable, knuckle-headed ninja. He was the legacy of the Yondaime Hokage, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. His name, Uzumaki Naruto. Their opponent was incredibly fast. Sasuke was barely faster than the Nukenin under normal circumstances. Within the dome of ice mirrors he created, Zabuza's perfect tool was too much for them, even combined. Seeing a moment of weakness, the Nukenin concentrated his attack on Naruto. What happened next surprised both boys even more than the sudden shift in their foe's attack. Naruto could only helplessly watch as the needles came closer and closer to him. Strange as everything suddenly started to become clearer. If events hadn't progressed as they did, he might have just dismissed it as his own acceptance of his fate. However, fate decided to intervene, not once, but twice. Before he knew it, he was on the ground, knocked off his feet by his teammate, Sasuke, who now looked like a human pincushion. "Why?" asked a very shocked Naruto. Sasuke had an equally shocked look on his face. "I don't know. My body just moved. On its own." It was all he could manage to get out before collapsing on the ground. "Sasuke," Naruto gasped. The raven-haired teen looked up at his blonde teammate. His eyes had gone back to their original onyx color. "That man, my brother. I told myself I wouldn't die until I killed him." Sasuke whispered to him. "You, don't die." Sasuke's eyes closed for a final time. His entire body had gone slack. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to hold back the pain. A myriad of emotions ran through his mind. Sadness at the loss of a friend, disappointment in his own weakness, frustration at not being able to defeat their opponent. So many emotions at one time, all ready to burst at any moment. He protected a precious person while knowing it was a trap, and he still decided to jump in. "He was a shinobi that deserved respect," said the masked boy. "Is this the first time a friend of yours has died? This is the way of the shinobi." "Shut up," was all Naruto whispered. Power, raw untamed power coursed through his veins. First it manifested in a fiery red spiral. The red chakra was fierce, angry, filled with more malice and hatred than even Zabuza had ever felt, and that Kakashi had only felt once before. "The seal," thought Kakashi, "has it been broken?" "That power. No, it's not Kakashi," was the thought that ran through Zabuza's head. Meanwhile, the masked boy watched in horror and bewilderment. Naruto looked directly at him. His vivid blue eyes were now red with untamed fury and the pupils were slitted. "I'll rip you apart." "That chakra. It's impossible. Chakra can't change like this." The masked boy thought. He was frozen in terror at the radical change Naruto was going through. And such an evil chakra. The red chakra formed a fox above Naruto. The Senbon needles that had penetrated various points in his body suddenly shot out of his body, which was shaking in unbridled rage. Suddenly, the wounds all over his body began to heal before the masked boy's eyes. His wounds. They're healing. This boy? What is he? It was what happened next that solidified Naruto's reputation as Konoha's number 1, unpredictable, knuckled-headed ninja. Naruto's Hitayite fell off of his head as the sinister red fiery chakra became black and cold, yet the black flames seemed to sting with more intensity than the red ones. Even though the chakra had changed again, the whisker marks that had become thicker and more defined had not receded, and his eyes were still blood-red and slitted. Kakashi and Zabuza stood rooted in each of their respective areas. Sakura, and even Tazuna, cringed at the changes in the chakra that saturated the air around them. It was incredibly strong. The fact that Tazuna could feel it was a testament to that fact. Sakura was frightened. She had no clue as to what was going on. She couldn't see anyone through the mist. She could barely see Tazuna, and he was right next to her. The foreign chakra was far stronger than anything she'd ever felt. It far surpassed anything she had ever felt from either Kakashi-sensei or even Sasuke-kun combined. She was also unsettled by the fluctuations of the feelings the chakra gave off. It could only be felt a little at first. Desperation, fear, hopelessness, and then hate, anger, malice. The feelings came with such intensity that she could almost taste the killing intent in the air. As frightened as she was of it, she was glad that whatever the source, it was not directed at her. However, now the feelings had changed. The hate and anger were still there, but it was more controlled, more lethal and deadly. The killing intent was more focused and no longer felt as it was going to consume everything in the area. However, it was still as strong, if not stronger, than it had been a few moments ago. Kakashi's reaction was much different than Sakura's. When he felt the familiar killing intent, he immediately had flashbacks of the Kyuubi no Kitsune's attack on Konoha 12 years ago. He had felt the immediate need to deal with Zabuza quickly so that he could deal with whatever it was that had happened to Naruto. Now, though, he could only feel bewildered at the familiar feeling the chakra had given off. It can't be," Kakashi said, looking over in the direction that he felt Naruto's chakra coming from. "Impossible. One of your students is doing something they shouldn't be able to." Kakashi," said Zabuza with some amusement in his voice. "Naruto. Naruto just awakened a Kekkai Genkai thought to have been wiped out 12 years ago," said Kakashi, not even bothering to hide his astonishment. "Oh, and you think it would be enough for him to defeat Haku?" asked Zabuza in a half-amused, half-disbelieving tone. "Due to his more unique circumstances, I'd be willing to bet that he'd be able to defeat both of us if he could effectively use its power," said Kakashi. "Oh, and what could actually give him the power to do that?" asked Zabuza. Although he was curious to know what could cause Kakashi's reaction, he couldn't help but think the copycat Nin was overstating his student's abilities. Then again, Haku took a vested interest in Uzumaki, while the Uchiha hardly caught his attention at all. "The Jagan," was Kakashi's simple reply. Two simple words even made Zabuza start having second thoughts about the annoying and overly loud blonde ninja. "How can you be so sure?" he asked his opponent. The Jagan was famous, feared, and above all, respected, even by those belonging to the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. "I've only felt chakra like that in the presence of one other person, and it was as unforgettable then as it is now," explained Kakashi. "But my sensei never had any other family. He was the only one with the Jagan in the village, meaning the only way Naruto could have it." Kakashi's eyes widened at the revelation. Haku watched as the boy in front of him stood up. The menacing aura retreated inside of him, but the killing intent was still thick in the air. It was then when Haku saw it. Naruto's spiky blonde hair began to stand straight up in the front, no longer covering his forehead. Then what appeared to be a slit across it appeared and began to slightly glow. The teal glow became more intense as it got wider. When the slit fully opened, the glow subsided, revealing a third eye much like Naruto's normal too. It was sapphire blue in color, although it was slightly slitted. "You will pay," he said to the masked Nin, still shaking with fury. "I'll kill you." Haku took the moment to step back into his mirrors. This sudden burst of power, the lust for battle and blood. He is no longer the same boy I fought before, Haku thought to himself. Suddenly, a huge shockwave of power was released by Naruto. "He's coming," Haku thought as Naruto prepared to charge. He sent a small barrage of sunbon at the charging boy, only to have them harmlessly batted away by the boy's immense power. He barely was able to jump away from the mirror as Naruto shattered in with a simple punch. Haku's visage suddenly appeared in all of the mirrors at once. He was astonished at the boy's newfound speed and even more amazed that his last attack was merely blasted away without a mere thought. As one, all of the mirrors attacked. The sunbon embedded themselves deeply into Naruto. His third eye began to glow brightly again, and the red chakra from before seemed to surround him. Releasing his newfound power, Naruto forced the needles from his body, his wounds instantly healing. The sheer power Naruto was putting out was enough to crack the mirror Haku was in. He immediately charged. A second mirror shattered as Naruto's fist made contact. Haku had jumped from the mirror to one above the Jinchuriki. only to charge at his three-eyed opponent. Naruto seemed to anticipate this and jumped away. He then charged at Haku. The masked boy could barely keep up with the barrage of fists coming at him. Finally, Haku managed to score a hit with a spinning kick to Naruto's stomach, sending him back a few feet. Haku jumped into a mirror, but had to vacate immediately as Naruto's foot came crashing through. As Haku entered another mirror, he saw Naruto going through a short and unfamiliar combination of hand seals. Gukatan, Inochi Enku no Kabushi, Hellfire Release, Fist of the Mortal Flame. When the sequence was completed, Naruto brought his fist back as it exploded in orange and black flames. Thrusting his fist forward, he launched the strange fireball at Haku. It was only basic survival instinct that told Haku to move out of the way, as the mirror he had just been in was completely melted upon contact. The fact the fireball was not stopped by his mirror did not go unnoticed by the ice manipulator. However, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him, the boy's third eye keeping up a blinding glow. Haku drew a few Senbon and threw them at the orange-clad ninja in hopes of removing the boy from his path. Unfortunately for Haku, his opponent seemed to phase out for a moment, the Senbon seemingly flying through him. He gasped in surprise. Fast was his only though when Naruto grabbed his wrist. Before Haku could retaliate, another shockwave of power was released by Naruto. Zabuza-san, I'm sorry, but I cannot stand up to his powers. He thought as Naruto started running through one-handed seals like Haku had before. Then, his entire arm seemed to burst out in orange and black flames. Gukatan, Inochi Enku no Kabushi. Naruto yelled as he smashed his flaming fist into Haku, who was sent careening through a mirror. As he hit the ground, he bounced 5 times before landing in a disgruntled heap. That power. Surely Naruto can't, thought Sakura as she heard Naruto's yell. Sasuke-kun, please be alright. She became even more worried when the strange chakra suddenly vanished. Haku tried to stand, but found he couldn't. He no longer had the energy to do so. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Naruto approaching, the eye in the middle of his forehead glowing with great intensity. I cannot compete with him. Their eyes met, and Naruto froze, shock evident on his face. His third eye even quit glowing. His blood-red, demonic eyes became sapphire-colored once again. Why you? It was then Haku realized the boy's shock. His mask had been completely shattered and possibly incinerated in that last attack. You're that guy from before. Images of their meeting in the forest flashed through Naruto's mind. Why did you stop? I killed an important friend of yours. Why can't you kill me? Haku asked calmly. Naruto took a glance back at the now shattered mirrors where Sasuke still lay. He closed his eyes, the Jagan still focused on Haku. Damn it, he yelled as he kicked Haku in the stomach. The boy only gave a small groan in protest, as he rolled a short distance away from Naruto. Haku spit up some blood as he tried to stand. This time he was successful, but he could barely do so. Where did all of that power of yours go? You can't defeat me like that. Was he not an important person to you? Naruto's emotions were all over the place. He wasn't sure what to think or feel. His mind kept going back to all of the things Haku had said to him before Sasuke had been killed. He was brought back into the present when Haku spoke up once more. There are those who have the wrong idea. They fail to defeat an enemy that needs to be defeated. They show mercy instead and decide not to take his life. If you ask me, doing something like that is not showing mercy. Do you know the pain of living without a dream? Knowing you're not needed by anyone. What are you trying to say? Naruto asked Haku, knowing deep in his own heart, he already knew and understood what the boy was talking about. He felt, though, that he should ask, to acknowledge what the boy was going to tell him. Zabuza-san does not need a weak ninja. You stole my reason to exist. Haku explained. Naruto had a pained expression on his face. Why? Why do you fight for that guy? He gets money from bad guys and does evil things. Is that no-brow freak the only important person you have? His fists were now clenched and his eyes, with the exception of the Jagan, were shut tightly. I had people who were important to me a long time ago, Haku clarified. My parents. He sighed at the painful memories. I was born in the country of water, where the snow piled up deep. All we did was farm, and we were poor, but my mother and my father were happy with it. I was happy. They were really kind parents. But when I first took notice of my surroundings, something happened. Haku looked on sadly. He needed the boy, this Uzumaki Naruto, to understand. Something? What happened? asked Naruto, intrigued by the boy's tale. Haku raised his hand. It still had the blood. He coughed up on it. This blood, was all he said. Blood. Naruto was very confused by the change in subject. So what happened? My father killed my mother, and then had tried to kill me. What? Haku then explained the water country's eradication of those who possessed a Kekkei Genkai, or bloodline limit, and the significance of having one. After the wars, those families hid their abilities and lived on because only death awaited them if their secret was revealed. That boy, he said, pointing to Sasuke, as well as yourself, probably have had a tough times as well. Those who possess a special ability are feared by everyone. My mother possessed such a bloodline limit. She had kept it a secret and married my father. She must have believed that an ordinary life would continue for a while, if not forever. Haku remembered when his powers first manifested. Father found out our secret. Haku's eyes became distant, as if he was reliving the painful memories. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if his own parents were still around, if they would have tried to kill him for having Kyuubi inside of him, like Haku's father tried to kill him for having a special ability. When I had came to, I realized I had killed my own father, Haku said in an even voice. At the time I thought of myself as, no, I had to think of myself as being. Haku paused for a moment. I realized that that was the most painful thing one could feel. The most painful thing one could feel? Asked Naruto, thinking he already knew the answer. He had to know the boy's answer, if only for confirmation. The lost look in Haku's eyes merely confirmed the conviction and truth behind his words. It pained Naruto to see such a look mirrored in the eyes of another. The feeling you are not needed by anyone in this world. It was all it took to send a jolt straight into the core of Naruto's spirit. He's the same as me. You said to me, I want to become the #1 ninja in my village and make everyone recognize me. When someone accepts you from the bottom of their heart appears, that person should become the most important person to you. Zabuza-sen knew I was from a family with a Kekkei Genkai and raised me. He wanted this ability that everyone hated. Tears formed at the corners of his eyes as he remembered when he met Zabuza, the man who had saved him, the man who had given him a purpose. I was happy. For a minute, a happy expression came to Haku's face before becoming downcast again. I'm sorry, Zabuza-san. I couldn't become the tool you wanted me to become, he whispered, and then he walked towards Naruto. Naruto-kun, please, kill me. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Zabuza were still at their standoff. Each passing moment since the energy receded, Kakashi had become increasingly worried. He did not know whether or not Naruto had succeeded or not in taking down Haku. The sounds of battle had faded a while ago, and he did not know whether or not Sasuke and Naruto were all right. Seems like your boy has run out of steam, Kakashi, Zabuza taunted. Zabuza, let's finish this. One move to decide it all, Kakashi said with confidence, though in truth he was scared that he had let down yet another teammate. He then pulled out a scroll and with some quick movements, unrolled it and twirled it around. Using a sharp point on his Jounin vest, he pricked his finger and smeared blood over the seals on the scroll before rolling it back up. He still held it in his hands as the did 3-hand seals. Ninpu Kuchios Doton, Suga no Jutsu, Ninja Art, Summoning Move, Earth Release, Dogging Fangs Technique. He then set scroll on the ground, his hands still clasped to it. Zabuza felt the chakra surging from Kakashi. When nothing happened, he figured that Kakashi's technique had failed. Whatever you do, it's pointless. You can't even feel my presence at all. The demon of the bloody mist's voice echoed from every direction, taunting Kakashi. But I know what you are doing very well, Kakashi. You have fallen into my trap completely. It was then that several dogs burst from the ground attacking Zabuza. Sakura and Tazuna could hear the growling from where they were at. What is that sound? Asked a freaked-out bridge builder. What's going on? Sakura asked herself. Both were feeling very uneasy considering they had practically been left in the dark and unable to tell what was going on in either battle being fought around them. If I can't follow you with my eyes or ears, I'll just have to use my nose, said Kakashi calmly, as if lecturing a small child. That's what happens when you close your eyes in the mist. This is a summoning technique for pursuing purposes. I stopped your attacks 2 times and bled both of those times for this purpose. Your weapons have my scent on them. Those are my cute ninja dogs, and their noses work better than any other dogs. You're the one who has fallen into the trap. The mist has cleared. Your future is death. I don't care about your bluffs, said Zabuza defiantly. Kakashi was right. The mists were clearing, and Zabuza was just feet away from Kakashi and held in place by several of Kakashi's summons. "Don't act so tough. There is nothing you can do in this situation," scolded Kakashi. "Your death is certain. Zabuza, you fooled around too much. Your ambitions were too big. You failed in the assassination of the Mizukage and the coup d'etat. You ran away with a few of your subordinates and became exiled ninja. Your name was given to the village of Konoha immediately. In order to gather money for retaliation and to avoid the prosecution from the pursuing ninjas, you sided with vermin like Gatu." He said the last word as if it tasted bad in his mouth. "Zabuza, do you really think I have survived all this time with just the Sharingan? I'll show you my original technique. It is not a copy." Kakashi did 3 hand seals and then griped his right wrist with his left hand. Chakra began to gather around his feet when bolts of electricity surged from the ground into his right hand. "Raikiri, lightning edge," he shouted. "What the? I can see the chakra in his hands," said Zabuza, astonished at the power and level of control that Hatake Kakashi, the copycat Nin, possessed. "You're too dangerous. The person you are trying to kill, Tazuna-san, is this country's courage. The bridge he is trying to create is this country's hope. Your ambition sacrifices too many people. That's not what a ninja is supposed to do." Kakashi could see the smirk appear on Zabuza's face through the mask. "Who cares? I have fought for my ideal, and that won't change in the future either. I'll say this again. Give up," ordered Kakashi, the lightning surging in his right palm. His normally lazy, calm, and expressionless face was now fiercely glaring at his foe. "Your future is death." "Please kill me," pleaded Haku. Worry and indecision had frozen Naruto in place. "Why are you hesitating?" With each passing moment, Naruto felt his resolve crumble. "I can't believe that stupid story," he shouted defiantly as he took several steps away from Haku. "Weapon. Tool. You call a person like that an important person? You're okay with that? Is it wrong?" The sad neutral expression never leaving Haku's face. What's wrong with that?" "But that's... Zabuza-san had hopes for me. He needed me, but I have lost the purpose that made me. Zabuza-san will no longer need me." As Haku continued speaking, Naruto could feel his resolve crumbling, his heart breaking. "That is why I am asking you. Now hurry. Naruto-kun, please kill me." I don't understand. Is staying strong the only reason you have for staying on this world?" Naruto tried to reason with the boy. "You could have made people recognize you through something other than fighting." A small smile graced Haku's face. "The day I met you in the forest, I felt you were like me. You should understand." The look in Naruto's eyes gave away to Haku that he did. "I'm sorry I have to soil your hands." Is that the only way?" "Yes." Naruto looked down. His eyes were clenched tight, even his newly awakened Jagan eye. "If I had met you somewhere else, we might have been friends." He then opened his eyes, his resolve hardened. He charged towards Haku, his right hand going to his kunai pouch. "Grab hold of your dream." Sasuke had a dream too. Naruto rationalized in his mind as he ran faster towards Haku, his kunai in his hand. Haku closed his eyes. "Thank you. You will become strong." He silently thanked Naruto. "The mist. It's beginning to settle," exclaimed Tazuna. "There are 2 people over there. It looks like they're staring at each other," said Sakura. "I can't see very well." "Which one is Kakashi-sensei?" she asked. One of them moved. Haku caught the movement out of the corner of his eye. He then grabbed a hold of Naruto's wrist before he could strike the killing blow. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun." He apologized while doing a few one-handed seals. "But I can't die just yet." It was then that Naruto saw what Haku did after the ice manipulator vanished. Kakashi charged at Zabuza with a fully charged Raikiri. "So, this is it, huh?" Zabuza asked to himself. Suddenly, a crack in the bridge opened up, releasing large amounts of frozen air. A mirror of ice suddenly formed, and out stepped Haku right into the path of Kakashi's charged palm. Before Kakashi could reach Haku and Zabuza, Naruto materialized and knocked Haku through yet another mirror, placing himself in front of Zabuza, his Jagan blazing. "Naruto-kun," yelled Haku. "Naruto," thought Kakashi as he knew what was about to happen. He couldn't stop. It was too late. Gukatan, Inochi, and Ku no Kabushi. A powerful shockwave hit Sakura and Tazuna. They had to cover their eyes to protect themselves from the dust and debris from the fights on the bridge. "What happened?" asked Tazuna. I am possible, shouted Sakura as the figures became visible. Kakashi's Raikiri was being blocked by Naruto, whose arm was completely engulfed in black and orange flames. The sleeve of the jacket had been incinerated. Kakashi was staring right into the Jagan, while Zabuza was being held fast by half a dozen dogs. Suddenly, Naruto shoved Kakashi's attack away from himself and hit the Jounin in the chest with a powerful palm strike to the sternum. The blow knocked Kakashi back, but he was able to stay on his feet. Everyone had been so shocked by the turn of events they were speechless. In Naruto, Kakashi yelled after a few moments of speechlessness. What the hell were you thinking? I couldn't let you. Zabuza maybe, but not. Not Haku. He, like the others, was in complete shock. Naruto, Sakura whispered. Incredible, Tazuna said in bewilderment. Suddenly Sakura's eyes widened in realization. Naruto, you're all right. Where's Sasuke-kun? Naruto kept silent, but then he looked away from her. He couldn't face her. Sakura's eyes then widened again, tears threatening to spill forth. There was a lost look in her eyes. Sasuke, I'll go too, Tazuna whispered to the distraught Kunoichi. That way you don't have to break your teacher's orders. Okay, she answered as they both ran towards where Sasuke and Naruto had been fighting Haku originally. Sakura, Kakashi thought. Zabuza used the distraction to free himself from the dogs. You don't have time to look away, Kakashi, exclaimed Zabuza, drawing his sword and swinging it at Naruto. Naruto was caught off guard and had no time to dodge, when suddenly he found himself tackled to the ground. Zabuza's sword sliced through nothing but air. Haku, exclaimed a very surprised Zabuza. Meanwhile, Tazuna and Sakura had reached Sasuke's body. Seeing him lying there lifelessly, Sakura gasped. Tazuna didn't know the kid very well, but he liked him enough. He also knew how much the girl adored the dark-haired boy. The look in her eyes was the same as his daughter's after Kaiza had been killed by Gato and his men. She collapsed to her knees and felt his face. Her worst fears had just been confirmed. He's cold. This isn't an illusion. Huh? She asked quietly. You don't have to hold back because I'm here, he assured her. You should just cry at a time like this. I always got 100s on all of the tests at the academy. Huh? Tazuna raised an eyebrow in genuine confusion. But Sakura just continued on. I memorized more than 100 ideas of the shinobi code, and I always wrote the answers down proudly. One day there was this problem on a test. Answer the 25th clause of the shinobi code. And I wrote down that answer as usual. Try as she might to hold them back, the tears came anyway. A ninja must not show any emotion in any situation. A ninja must put the mission first and not have a heart that will allow him to cry. She began to cry into Sasuke's chest. This is what a ninja is, Tazuna whispered to himself. It's too cruel. Sasuke-kun, Sakura sobbed, before letting out a loud wail. One that tore a gaping hole into Naruto's heart nearby as he closed all three eyes from severe exhaustion. He was vaguely aware of being caught by Haku before he hit the ground. It was near dawn when he opened his eyes again. He let out a small groan and slowly sat up. I've never felt this weak before, he said aloud to himself as he placed a hand on his head. It's probably a side effect of awakening your Kekkei Genkai, said Kakashi, who was leaning against the wall. What happened? He asked. Is everyone all right? Naruto was hopeful. He already knew the answer, but he needed confirmation. Perhaps if he just wished hard enough. It had just been a nightmare. Wait, what do you mean Kekkei Genkai? One of those blood things like Haku has. One thing at a time, answered Kakashi. Everyone is all right, even Sasuke. Sasuke is alive, Naruto exclaimed excitedly. Kakashi nodded and Naruto gave him a fox-like grin. Zabuza was killed though, by Gato's thugs when he showed up after Zabuza killed Gato, Kakashi informed him. But what? Naruto asked. Apparently Gato had made a habit of hiring missing neens. Then when it comes time to pay them, he killed them if they hadn't already died on the mission he hired them for. Kakashi told him. What about Haku? Asked Naruto. He took Zabuza's death pretty hard, but he is all right for the most part. He hasn't left your room since you were brought here. He'll be coming back with us to Konoha when we leave. He looked over to Haku when he spoke. The boy in question was fast asleep in his chair. Naruto sighed in relief. That's good, I suppose. Now what about my blood thingy? Kakashi couldn't help but smirk. While Naruto did have a serious side that was seen by almost no one, he was still the same knucklehead with a one-track mind at the end of the day. It's pretty rare. In fact, at the time of the QB attack, there was only one known person who had it, and I have reason to believe he was your father. What? But that means. Naruto's eyes got wide with excitement until everything Kakashi said, my family died in the attack. I still have to check with the Sandaime to be sure, but if I am not mistaken, I am the perfect person to teach both you and Sasuke and Konoha at the moment, said Kakashi. Why is that? Asked Naruto. In Sasuke's case, it's because we both have the Sharingan, and in yours, the man I believe who is your father was also my sensei, Kakashi said. Naruto's eyes widened again. The excitement that he might find out a little bit about his family was too great. Why your sensei? Who was it? Kazama Erasure, the Yondaime Hokage, said Kakashi reluctantly. Why Yondaime? That means. Naruto couldn't let himself finish the sentence. Kakashi merely nodded in response. Why? Why me? Kakashi sighed. He really couldn't blame the kid. To find out only a few weeks ago you had a demon inside of you, and then that it was your own father who had sealed it, there would be too much for anyone. He had to help the boy understand. Think about it, Naruto. What does it mean to be Hokage? In his place, would you be able to ask some other family to sacrifice their child if you saw a chance where your own child could be seen as a hero? Naruto went to interrupt. I know that didn't happen, but that is what Sensei had intended. Naruto was silent for a few moments. I think I understand. Now do you want to learn about your bloodline limit? Asked Kakashi. Naruto said nothing but nodded. As I said before, it's rare. In fact, you are the second person known to have had it. Yondaime, like you, was an orphan. He had no other family. He was found in the wilderness by a group of our ninja and brought back to the village. It wasn't long after, and he attended and graduated the academy. Soon afterwards, he became a genin and awakened his bloodline limit. He was able to develop it with the help of his sensei. It's called the Jagan. What does it do? Asked Naruto. Well, when it's activated, a third eye appears on your forehead. Kakashi had to stifle a small chuckle as Naruto felt his forehead. Not even Yondaime was completely certain of its full potential. But what we did know about it, or rather, what he told me about it helped with his chakra control and could sometimes give him boosts of power, like what happened to you on the bridge. It can even slow down an enemy's movements based on your own reaction time. It can also give you access to a few techniques that can only be used by you because of the eye. That means not even the Sharingan can copy those techniques. Wow, was all Naruto could say. I'll let you alone for now, but we'll have to talk to the Sandaime-sama about whether or not Yondaime was actually your father. Either way, I have something for you that will complement the changes in your fighting style with the eye. I'm sure Yondaime would have wanted you to have it under the circumstances, whether you're his son or not. Kakashi informed him as he was leaving the room. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said with a small smile on his face. One more thing, Naruto. Kakashi paused at the door. The Jagan seems to have a mind of its own. While in a sense you can control it, and is a part of you, it is also sentient and separate from you. It's very prideful and demands respect. All of Yondaime's opponents who insulted the eye all died. He then left Naruto to his thoughts. The boy had a lot to think about. Chapter 2. Training the Eye, Secrets Revealed. The country of Wave had a spectacular celebration after Naruto woke. The entire populace was extremely happy with the downfall of Gato, except two. While they didn't particularly care for Gato, it was another person that was lost the day before that dampened their need to celebrate. Haku stood out on the docks near Tezuna's house, staring out at the ocean. He barely acknowledged Naruto's presence. No words were said, the two just sat in silence. When time for the celebrations came, Haku did not go with them, saying he needed time to himself. Naruto and Sasuke didn't stay long either. The former was concerned about his new friend, the latter wanted to get away from his fangirl. It was soon afterwards that the bridge was finished, and it was time for Team 7 and Haku to leave. They made one last stop at Zabuza's grave, his sword sticking out of the ground as a sort of headstone. Haku burned some incense, and Sakura placed flowers on his grave. I was wondering, Kakashi-sensei, said Sakura, does a ninja really have to be what he said a ninja should be? Haku was now looking at Kakashi in great interest. Shinobi are not supposed to seek their reason to exist. Kakashi explained. It's important that they exist as tools. That idea exists in Konoha too. As he was speaking, Sakura walked back towards the others. Haku looked towards Naruto, who seemed to be at a crossroads. He was staring blankly over the cliff, a myriad of emotions passing over his face. After a silent moment, he came to a decision as he spoke. Does becoming a real ninja really mean that? He asked. It was a simple enough question, one that Haku would have answered yes to immediately only a few days before. Yet the blonde boy in front of him made him question whether or not it was true. I kind of don't like that. He had an uncharacteristic frown on his face. Do you think so? Asked Sasuke to Kakashi. Well, no. That's why ninja unconsciously suffer from that idea, he answered, like Zabuza did. Naruto stared back at the grave a moment longer before speaking again. All right, I'm going to follow my own nindo. I'm doing to run straight down the path where I am not going to regret anything. He looked up into the sky as he was speaking. A small, genuine smile graced his features. Kakashi looked surprised for a moment, but then gave him a small smile that was only visible but the small crinkling of his left eye, which was the only exposed area of his face. Haku also gave Naruto a small smile as well. We've completed the bridge thanks to you, said Tazuna. We're going to miss you guys. Be well, said Tsunami. Thank you for everything, said Kakashi. Don't worry, we'll visit you again one day, said Naruto cheerfully. He no longer wore his orange jacket because it had been irreparably damaged. So he just had on a black t-shirt with a red spiral design on the front and his orange pants. He also wore his hitai around his neck. He didn't want it to become incinerated once he figured out how to call on the orange and black fire again, nor did he want it to cover the Jagan. Kakashi-sensei had told him that the orange and black flame was called the mortal flame. It burned hotter than any other flame and was often compared to lava from a volcano. To Kakashi's knowledge, only the Yondaime was capable of using the mortal flame because of the Jagan. The Jagan also allowed the Konoha no Kuroi Senko, Konoha Yellow Flash, to use his ultimate technique, the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto's smile faded a bit when he saw the look on Inari's face. Inari, you're going to be lonely, aren't you? You can cry, you know. I'm not going to cry, but you can, Naruto. Inari responded, holding back tears. Is that so? Naruto's face was a dam that was about to break. See you later. He turned around quickly. He wouldn't be the one to break. Even though he did his best, a few stray tears streamed down his face. Sakura couldn't help but roll her eyes. Stubborn baka. The people of Wave Country watched as the 5 shinobi walked back towards Konoha. The boy changed Inari's heart, and Inari changed the heart of the villagers. He created a bridge of courage, which led to hope. Tazuna said, You know, speaking of bridges, we still have to name this one, said one of the villagers. I forgot, but I've got the perfect name for the bridge. Tazuna said. Oh, what is it? Asked another villager. Tazuna focused his gaze on the retreating form of Naruto. How about the Great Naruto Bridge? Tsunami giggled. That's a good name for it. All right, as soon as we get home, I'm going to have Iroha-sensei treat me to some ramen to celebrate the successful completion of our mission. Then I'm going to make Konohamaru listen to my tale of bravery. Then I'll... Hey, Sasuke-kun, interrupted Sakura. Do you want to go on a date as soon as we get back to the village? No, was his simple one-worded answer, to which Naruto and Haku couldn't help but roll their eyes. Then Naruto decided to speak up. Hey, I'll go, he offered cheerfully. Shut up and be quiet, Naruto baka, snapped Sakura before hitting Naruto on the head. Haku slapped his own forehead at Naruto's hopeless crusade to get Sakura to notice him, much less win her heart. The trip to Konoha was a few days longer than the trip to Wave. Without the worry of getting Tazuna to safety and Sasuke and Naruto's training, it was understandable. Sasuke was working on activating his Sharingan at will and sustaining it. During the rigorous training, he managed to get a second tomo in his left eye. Naruto's training consisted of keeping the Jagan open and using it to help with his chakra control. During these sessions, Sakura would train with Haku, who trained her in some basic healing methods and techniques, as well as some taijutsu to supplement what she had learned from the Konoha Ninja Academy. Naruto, what's with the eye of yours? Asked Sakura as she took a break from her training. Naruto was standing in front of a large bonfire, trying to use the Jagan to control the fire with minimal success. His hair was standing straight up and his Jagan was glowing a bright teal color, and he currently was only wearing his orange jumpsuit pants. He didn't want any more shirts to meet the same fate as a couple others had during their travels. She could see the seal on Naruto's stomach dissipate as his chakra went back down to normal levels. When asked about it, Naruto evaded answering, saying that it was just some sort of containment seal meant to help him control chakra. While Sasuke, Haku, and Sakura would tell he was telling the truth, Naruto was a horrible liar. They could also tell he was leaving something out, as his smile would falter for a quick moment before he became loud and overly cheery. After thinking on it for some time, she realized that Naruto always acted like that, and she wondered just how much of the real Naruto anyone ever saw. "It's a Kekii Genkai, called the Jagan," he answered her. "It's a dojutsu like Sasuke Team Sharingan or the Hyuga clan Byakugan." He turned to her, looking at her speculatively. After finding out he had a bloodline limit, he had practically grilled Kakashi and Haku on everything they knew about other Kekii Genkai that could be found in Konoha or anywhere else. Haku told him about his Hayaton, ice release, abilities, and Kakashi mentioned one that had once been found in Konoha and used by the Shodaime Hokage, called Mokuton, would release. He also compared the Jagan to both the Byakugan and the Sharingan. Kakashi then told Naruto rumors of an ability to manipulate bones called Shikatsumiyaku, dead bone pulse, which was thought to have been eradicated by Kiri. Of course, the Hayaton Kekii Genkai was also thought to have been whipped out, so there could be other unknown survivors of the bloodline limit extermination that took place all those years ago, though it was highly unlikely. Not much was really known about it since the massacre had happened a decade prior, and Kiri had all records of their native Kekii Genkais destroyed. "Surely it can't be SG." Kakashi interrupted what Sakura had been about to say by covering her mouth. "Trust me, Sakura, whatever you do, do not under any circumstances insult that eye, even unintentionally," he told her. The look in his exposed eye was enough to placate her anger, albeit temporarily. Even Sasuke and Haku looked curious about his reaction. The origins of the Jagan are a mystery. Unlike the Byakugan or the Sharingan, it is not a Kekii Genkai native to Konoha. In fact, it's so rare that there is only one other known sighting of the Jagan in all of the elemental countries. Other than the fact that the majority of the Jagan's abilities are unknown, even to those with the bloodline, what really sets it apart from other dojutsu is the fact that it has a consciousness separate from the wilder. Everyone I've seen insult the eye has died, no matter how much more powerful they were than the wilder. You said there was only one other person to possess the Jagan, and considering what you just said, it sounded like you knew that person. Who were they? Asked Sakura. I mean, we never learned of the Jagan in the academy, and she glanced quickly at Naruto and took a deep breath before continuing. As far as anyone knows, Naruto doesn't have any family. What happened to them? She was very hesitant to ask. After all, it was very hard to miss the glares that the townspeople sent at their blonde teammate. One would often think it was for all of the pranks the blonde ninja had done in the past. However, with the emergence of a Kekii Genkai, one had to wonder if his family had somehow dishonored Konoha. While she was curious, she didn't want to pry too far into other people's business. Kakashi glanced quickly at Naruto, whose facial expression was wearing a very saddening frown. After we get back, Kakashi-sensei and I have to talk to Aji-sen first. Afterwards, we'll tell you what we can. He then turned and walked into the forest away from the campsite. Naruto, Sakura whispered. Don't worry, Sakura. He just needs some time to himself. Kakashi reassured her. Naruto had been oddly quiet for the rest of the trip, so much that even Sakura was showing concern for her normally annoying blonde teammate over fawning over her beloved Sasuke-kun, much to the relief of everyone, especially Sasuke. Though he tried not to show it, even he was concerned about his teammate. As they approached the gates, Naruto closed the Jagan and tied his Hittite back around his forehead. When questioned, he told them he hadn't wanted to reveal it to anyone yet before they had spoken with the Hokage. Hokage-sama, Team 7 reporting another mission successfully completed, said Kakashi. It's good to hear, although I must admit I got worried when our patrols picked up the Demon Brothers not too long ago, Sandaime said. So tell me, Kakashi, who is this? Indicating Haku was the one he was asking about. This is Haku. He was Momochi Zebu's apprentice and wishes to become a Konoha shinobi, said Kakashi. He has considerable skills with various flora and fauna and uses of medicine, and with some training could make a good medic nin, as he has excellent chakra control from what I've seen. He also has a Kekii Genkai that allows him to use Hayaton jutsus like the Shodaime could use Mokuton jutsu. Kakashi then took a steadying breath. There is also one other thing to report, he said with great hesitancy. Oh, and what would that be? Asked Sandaime with an interested look, worry evident as he caught the uncomfortable looks on Kakashi and Naruto's faces. It's awakened, hasn't it? Kakashi raised an eyebrow, But Naruto's expression went from uncomfortable to shocked to anger. "You knew, didn't you?" he shouted angrily. "You knew all this time he was my father, and you didn't tell me. Even after?" Naruto closed his eyes tightly and pulled the Hittite off of his head. Although his hair was now standing straight up, the eye had not opened. "You weren't supposed to know until absolutely necessary. Either until after you became of age, made Chunin, or in case your Kekkei Jinkai awakened," Sandaime said apologetically. It was one of his final requests. "Just like I was to be seen as a hero?" Naruto asked bitterly. Like anyone really followed that request. "Naruto," Sakura scolded him, only to have Naruto turn around and glare at her. The Jagan was glowing fiercely. The intensity of his glare was such that she flinched back instinctively. He had never even so much as gotten annoyed with her, nor had he ever said anything bad about her. This look was completely out of character for him to direct at her, and she had to admit that look was startling enough without making her constantly challenge everything she knew about Naruto. "Tell me, Sakura-chan, how would you like it if the man you looked up to more than anyone else, the one you respected above all others, was responsible for nearly every horrible thing that has ever happened to you?" asked Naruto angrily. "That even after all of that, you come to find out he was your own father?" He did not shout any of this, nor did he even sound angry. It was clear he was upset, and there was a hint of fear and desperation in his voice, though one had to truly listen to catch it. "Naruto, I assure you, Erasure only wanted the best for you. It pained him greatly to know that you would grow up alone," said Sandaime. "But, you must understand, he made a great deal of enemies. You would have been in even greater had it been known that you were his son." "Whose son?" asked Sakura. "Naruto's father. Was also my sensei, Kazama Erasure, the Yondaime Hokage," Kakashi informed them. This brought shocked looks to Sasuke, Sakura, and Haku. "But, I don't understand," Sakura said confusedly. Naruto looked at them in sadness. He closed the Jagan and tied the Hittite back onto his head. "Go ahead and tell them everything. It's too much for me to deal with at the moment. Irika-sensei or Konohamaru should know where to find me." With that, Naruto walked out the door in a sort of daze. A devastated look marred his face. Naruto was walking along aimlessly through the streets of Konoha when a square rock with eye holes began to follow him. He sighed. He really didn't feel up to this at the moment, but Konohamaru and his friends always proved to be a great distraction. He didn't know if it was Konohamaru's blatant hero worship of himself, or the way the other two, Udon and Moegi, seemed to look up at him with admiration and respect, but even in his darkest moods they could usually cheer him up fairly quickly. Perhaps it was because, after Irika, they were the first to accept him, to see past the mask he put up and the pranks and saw him for who he was instead of who, or what, he appeared to be. Just this once, he'd thought, for perhaps the 1000th time, "I'll humor them a bit." "You know, Konohamaru," Naruto sighed. "Rocks aren't perfectly square, and they don't have eye holes." "Just what I'd expect from my eternal rival," shouted the rock, before exploding into multicolored smoke. When the smoke cleared, Naruto could see 3 young children on their hands and knees in a coughing fit. "Too much gunpowder," said the one in the middle, who was wearing a yellow shirt, khaki pants, blue scarf, and a set of green goggles. When they noticed Naruto was watching them, they all shot up to their feet and struck poses. The first up was a girl with orange hair and rosy cheeks. She wore a pink shirt with a maroon vest and cape over it and khaki shorts. She, like Konohamaru, wore green goggles on her head. Sexiness of an adult, Kunoichi Moegi. The other boy, who wore a dark blue jacket and khaki shorts and giant glasses on his face, as well as yet another set of green goggles. "I love assembling models, Udon." The leader, not to be outdone, was the most enthusiastic of the bunch. "The village's #1 genius ninja, Konohamaru." In unison they all said, "The 3 of us together make the Konohamaru Corps." Naruto couldn't help but smirk at their actions. "What's with the goggles?" "We've decided to copy the old you," said Konohamaru proudly. Naruto smiled at the young boy. "Don't ever change, Konohamaru." He then took the rooftops, heading towards his spot. "Konohamaru-kun, is Naruto and Ai-chan all right?" asked Moegi. The normally cheerful and energetic leader frowned a moment before giving her a small smile. "He will be. Nothing keeps the boss down for long." The Genin and Haku looked uncomfortable and upset at what the Hokage and Kakashi told them. "His eyes," Haku whispered, at everyone's questioning look. I've only saw those eyes on one other person, and that was when Zabuza and I left Kiri. They held the same expression mine did before I was found by Zabuza. They're similar to both Sasuke-san and Kakashi-san's, but also far different. Judging from Kakashi's exposed eye, Sakura could tell he was frowning. Sasuke, on the other hand, remained emotionless and silent. He neither confirmed or denied anything Haku had said. Sakura was dismayed, and for the first time she took a look at those around her and realized just how lucky she had been. Sasuke-kun's entire family had been killed. Haku's father killed his mother and tried to kill him, and it seemed Kakashi-sensei was hiding some sort of dark past as well. He's good at hiding it, but it's painfully visible to those who have suffered as much as he has, or to those who now to look, said Kakashi. I'll be the first to admit that I too fell into the same trap as the villagers. While I did not hold the same contempt for the fox the village has, I did not step in to help him either. Worry not, Kakashi, he bears no grudge against you, said Sandame. Still, I think it's time to find Naruto and show him that you're still his friends. While you may not be the closest of groups, he has found a measure of acceptance with each of you, and he fears losing that more than anything. Sakura, Haku, and Sasuke each went after Naruto. They took Naruto's earlier advice and sought out Konohamaru, as Iriko was still teaching classes. Needless to say, they got more than they bargained for. Hello, Konohamaru-san. Have you seen Naruto around lately? Asked Sakura. She smiled sweetly at the little boy. He only growled in response. Why? He yelled. Haven't you done enough already? He wouldn't even stop to play ninja with us like he promised. Sasuke snorted. A ninja playing ninja? That was obviously the wrong response, as Moegi and Udon immediately latched on to the Sandame's grandson. Let me go. I'm gonna kick his ass, yelled Konohamaru. Let me go. I can't let him get away with making fun of the boss. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the small boy's behavior, while Sakura looked shocked at the sheer amount of protectiveness and devotion he had for Naruto, while Haku merely smiled at the boy. Haku squatted down to Konohamaru's level and smiled. I assure you, Konohamaru-san, we do not wish Naruto-sama any ill will. He's just down from some things he found out today, and we wish to cheer him up. Do you know where we can find him? Konohamaru calmed down visibly, enough that Udon and Moegi let go of their leader. He still glared at Sasuke suspiciously, turning back to Haku. I believe you, but if you hurt Nichan, I will kick your ass. His glare was mostly directed at Sasuke when he said this. Sakura finally had enough of it. Quit glaring at Sasuke-kun like that, and just tell us where we can find Naruto, she demanded. How dare he glare at Sasuke-kun like that? Yelled inner Sakura. After a fierce glare at Sakura, Konohamaru gave in. Fine, I'll tell you. When boss wants to be alone, away from everyone, he goes to the top of the Hokage mountain. He said it helps him think when he's away from everyone, and the Yandame's head has the best view of the village. Thank you, Konohamaru-san, smiled Haku. If you continue to protect your precious people, you will grow strong. Remember that, said Haku as the trio left the Konohamaru Corps in search of Naruto. Konohamaru smiled at Haku. You're nice. You'd be much better for the boss than the big four-headed girl he likes so much. You're much prettier too. He blushed slightly when he said this. Haku sighed and restrained Sakura as she charged at Konohamaru. Moegi and Udon cringed in fear behind him at the murderous eyes of the pink-haired Kunoichi. I'm a boy, he said as he walked off, more than a little aggravated that people kept assuming he was a girl. They left behind 3 gaping children. It wasn't long afterwards that the 2 Genin and the former Nuke Nin found a very dejected Naruto sitting where Konohamaru said he'd be, sitting on top of the Yandame's head looking out over the village. I'm surprised you're here, said Naruto. Even Sasuke was surprised that Naruto was able to sense their presence. Don't look so surprised, it's just a little side effect of the Jagan. It seems as if the world is much clearer than it used to be. He gave a small smile before going silent once more. Much to everyone's surprise, it was Sasuke who spoke first. Even with your new Kekii Genkai and your furry little problem, you're still a dope. Is that so? Said Naruto in a low voice. Then let's go to the training grounds so I can kick your ass, Sasuke team. When he looked back at his teammates and Haku, he gave them a foxy half grin. Get real, loser. I wouldn't even have to active my Sharingan to take on the likes of you, said Sasuke arrogantly. I'll kick your ass so hard not even your precious fangirls will want to be near you, shouted Naruto. Naruto baka, if you even think about harming my precious Sasuke-kun, I'll make sure you won't be able to eat ramen for a week, threatened Sakura. That's right. And then we'll beat that Ino pig to a pulp and Sasuke-kun will be all mine. Shinaro. Inner Sakura exclaimed while pumping her fist up and down over her head. Sakura-chan, whined Naruto. Haku smiled. Those three were going to be just fine. A week later, things were back to normal, except Naruto didn't bother Sakura so often. Not that his teammates noticed, or at least Sasuke didn't. Sakura actually began to miss the blonde's attention as she began to realize he was always there to help her when she was down from facing yet another of Sasuke's rejections. Naruto spent most of his time either training his new Kekkei Genkai or practicing Kenjutsu after Kakashi gave him the Yondame's sword, Shuriken no Ryujin, Fong of the Dragon King. To help with his Kenjutsu, Kakashi got Gekko Hade, as well as Maidogai's student, Tenten, to help with Naruto's training. Kakashi could see Sakura become more and more visibly depressed as time went on. When he investigated, he noticed what she had, although he had come to the realization much faster than she did. You don't know what you have until it's gone. He mused to himself. Then he looked over to Naruto. However, he isn't gone yet. His feelings are very much the same. He's just trying to suppress them to keep himself from being hurt. Kakashi frowned thinking back to when Naruto changed his behavior towards Sakura. He then shook his head sadly. Of course, if he didn't stand a chance before, he thinks there's no hope now that she knows. Naruto. Haku had gone through an evaluation of his skills. Sandame placed him as a chunin with eligibility for the Jonin exams in 2 years' time. He was placed in the hospital to learn more from the medical staff there. Haku's skills had shown enough promise that he was placed in training under a very promising genin named Yakushi Kabuto. As stated before, things were pretty much back to normal. Almost. Sasuke-kun, would you like to train with me, Boost our teamwork skills? Asked Sakura, her face filled with hope. No, you're annoying, said Sasuke. You have absolutely no talent, and your skills are even worse than Naruto's before he awakened the Jagan. Oh, all right, said Sakura dejectedly. WW worse. Then, Naruto. She let her head fall down as she walked away depressed. A few blocks away, Naruto was sitting in the lotus position on the roof of a building. His eyes were closed and his Jagan had started to glow with great intensity while he clenched his hands into tight fists. He had seen and heard the entire interaction between Sasuke and Sakura. Baka, Sasuke team, he muttered to himself. Yo, Naruto, what's going on? Asked Kakashi. Naruto sighed. Nothing, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto had gone through a complete wardrobe change. He now wore an orange sleeveless shirt, black baggy pants, with boots that went halfway up his shins. He was wearing his hitayite, which now had orange cloth instead of blue, around his waist. He wore a simple black headband around his forehead, which was currently in his pocket, to conceal the Jagan, a black wristband on each arm, and a black trench coat with 2 orange stripes that stretched the entire length of both arms from the cuff to the collar. Sasuke rejects Sakura again? He asked innocently. He had been observing Naruto when he was observing the other two. Only one thing ever made him react like that. I don't know what you're talking about, shouted Naruto angrily. She'll come around eventually, Naruto. Kakashi consoled him. HN, Naruto grunted. This I sees more than you think, Kakashi-sensei. He said sadly, I don't stand a chance. Not now. Not ever. There's still time. After all, you both are only 12, Kakashi said, trying to boost Naruto's spirits. It was unnerving having to do so, when far too often it was the other way around. You don't get it, do you? Asked Naruto respectfully. I can see everything in the smallest detail when I concentrate hard enough and take the time to notice. Sasuke's constant rejections haven't gone unnoticed. He was far less fangirls than he used to. Many of them that he still has react differently to him now. He's less of an idol to them. But not Sakura. She's so determined. Her feelings run much deeper than the others. Even that Ino girl she's always competing with. While the others are chasing a dream, she's trying to bring out the real Sasuke he hides underneath all the layers of emo-ness. She loves him even more than she knows. I wonder if this is how Obito felt all those times. Kakashi gave Naruto a sad smile that went unnoticed due to his mask. Things will work out. They always do, said Naruto sagely. So what do you need? I doubt you came to talk about my lack of love life. Kakashi smiled. Yes, well, I want you and the others to meet me on the bridge tomorrow at noon. And don't worry, I'll let the others know. Go ahead and continue your training. Later that day, Naruto was walking down the streets when his Jagan began to glow for a moment behind the headband. Konohamaru, you really need to come up with something new. That's when the square rock, with eye holes that had been trailing the blonde Jinchuriki, yelled out. I couldn't expect anything less from my eternal rival. After yet another explosion of multicolored smoke, 3 young kids appeared on the ground coughing on their hands and knees. Too much gunpowder, coughed out Udon. Naruto mentally sighed at their appearance. His 3 subordinates were still sporting their green goggles, but now they were also sporting trench coats similar to his own. Konohamaru was wearing a black trench coat with a light blue stripe running down the arms. Moegi's was black with 2 pink stripes and Udon's was black with 3 tint stripes. The 3 saw Naruto watching them and immediately struck poses. The most beautiful and graceful kunoichi in history, Moegi. I enjoy doing long division, Udon. Genius ninja and future #1 Hokage ever, Konohamaru. And together, they all shouted in unison, we form the Konohamaru Corps. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Taking on more of my style, eh? Of course, I can't allow my eternal rival to be more stylish than we are, shouted Konohamaru. So, boss, you have time, right? He asked hopefully. I dunno. I've been awfully busy lately, Naruto said teasingly, scratching the back of his head. The members of the Konohamaru Corps turned to look at each other, and each nodded. Do it, Moegi, shouted Konohamaru. Much to Naruto's surprise, Moegi went through a series of hand seals, but he couldn't place the technique as one he'd ever remembered seeing. Puppy dog eyes no jutsu, she shouted. Come on, boss. Play ninja with us, Konohamaru begged. Please, Moegi and Udon added. Sakura watched the entire scene with a small smile on her face. It was the small moments like these when she missed her blonde teammate the most, as he always had that special ability to lift others' spirits no matter what. I guess I have some time to spare, he said as if he was busy. A ninja playing ninja, Sakura teased her teammate. Sakura-chan, whispered Naruto. He had been so focused on the Konohamaru Corps antics, he hadn't felt her distinctive presence approach. He was so caught off guard that even Konohamaru caught the expression on Naruto's face when he saw Sakura before it passed. Sakura, on the other hand, remained oblivious to the depth of Naruto's feelings. Konohamaru decided it was time to step in and help the boss for once. Hey boss, is she your, you know? He asked, holding up his pinky. After glancing quickly at Sakura to gauge her reaction, Naruto decided on taking the safe route. After all, he wouldn't interfere with her love if he could help it any longer. No, Sakura is just my teammate. Nothing more, Naruto said seriously. The words stung. More than they should have, Sakura admitted to herself. Why should you care what he thinks of you? Maybe he finally got the hint and realized that our heart only belongs to Sasuke-kun. Shinaro, shouted inner Sakura. Sakura didn't answer or even acknowledge her second personality. Naruto missed the brief look of hurt that graced Sakura's face. Konohamaru decided a little bit of reverse psychology was in order to try and get the pink-haired kunoichi to finally see the boss for what he truly was. Just as I expected from my eternal rival. I knew you wouldn't go out with someone like her. You're much too good for her. Naruto's eyes widened in horror, and Sakura's face drooped in sadness as each replayed Sasuke's words to her earlier. Naruto was torn between berating Konohamaru and comforting the now distraught Sakura. However, Konohamaru wasn't finished. I mean, who'd want to go out with some flat-chested, ugly girl with a gigantic forehead? Sakura's expression went from dejected to absolutely furious as Naruto's became even more afraid. Kyuso, run, Konohamaru. The Konohamaru Corps ran at the sight of an enraged Sakura with Naruto close behind. As they turned the corner, Konohamaru ran into a big guy in a black jumpsuit with cat ears. He had something strapped to his back that was wrapped in bandages. Hey, that hurt you, little gaki, shouted the boy as he snatched up Konohamaru by the collar. Put him down, threatened Naruto coldly. He pulled back his jacket, revealing his sword. Don't start any trouble. He'll get angry, said a blonde-haired girl who wore a Suna Hitai around her neck and a giant fan strapped to her back. We're here for the exams, only not to pick fights. He's not here right now, and I just want to have a little fun. Besides, this little twerp bumped into me. I need to teach him to watch where he's going, said the tall, stocky boy. Sakura looked at the girl questioningly. Exams? Why are you here? I mean, judging by your Hittite, you're from Suna, But even allies of Konoha need a passport signed by the Hokage. You mean these? Said the girl arrogantly, showing her passport. We're here for the Chunin exams. Seeing that you don't know about them means you must be a rookie. Just pathetic little weaklings. I won't repeat myself again. Put him down. Naruto's eyes became slitted. What are you gonna do? You're almost as small as this Gaki, taunted the Sunanin. Before Naruto could move, a rock struck the boy's arm, forcing him to release Konohamaru. Kyuso, keep your nose out of where it belongs, the boy shouted to the branch of the tree, on which sat Konoha's current Rookie of the Year, Uchiha Sasuke. He crushed the rock he was holding in his hand. When it concerns a fellow citizen of Konoha, it concerns all of us, Sasuke said, especially when you decide to pick on the Hokage's defenseless grandson. You want trouble? Asked the boy angrily. Let's see how you handle this, he said as he pulled the object off his back. You're not going to use that, are you? Asked the blonde-haired girl with a worried tone. I wouldn't if I were you, warned Naruto. And why is that scared? Taunted the boy. No, the guy with the gourd on his back on the branch next to Sasuke is becoming very angry at you, said Naruto. Everyone looked back up at the tree in shock, even Sasuke. I didn't even sense him, and he was right next to me, thought Sasuke, the shock evident on his face. The second boy's face flitted with surprise before turning to annoyance. Kankuro, quit making a fool of yourself, or I will kill you, he said. GG Gaara. Kankuro whispered as the new kid, Gaara, disappeared in a swirl of sand and appeared next to Kankuro, Naruto, and the blonde girl. Only Naruto and the girl heard him. You're an embarrassment to our village, Gaara emotionlessly scolded Kankuro. What did you think we came to Konoha to do? Listen, they SSD started it. Shut up, or I'll kill you, Gaara threatened, and by the look on both Kankuro and the girl's faces he would more than likely live up to his threat. I got it. My mistake, apologized Kankuro with a terrified expression on his face. I am sorry. Very, very sorry. My apologies to you guys, Gaara said to the genin and kids next to his teammates. Gaara looked towards Sasuke. He was able to hit Kankuro with that stone so easily. He's good, he thought to himself, but this one, he had no problem sensing my presence. He's just as good, and yet, familiar, he thought as he turned his gaze to Naruto. So familiar, thought Naruto as he watched the red-haired boy. We're leaving, Gaara ordered the other two. We did not come here to play around. I know, acknowledged Kankuro. Sasuke jumped down to join his teammates. What is your name? He demanded of Gaara. Kankuro flinched, but the girl had a faint blush. Why you wish to know my name? She asked. No, Sasuke said coldly. I want to know his, he said pointing at Gaara, the one with the gourd. The girl tried not to let her disappointment show. Sabaka no Gaara, he answered. I am also interested in you too. What are your names? He said nodding towards Sasuke and Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke. Uzumaki Naruto, said Naruto. Only Gaara saw the brief glow of the Jagan underneath Naruto's headband. It was hard, wasn't it? He asked Gaara. Gaara stiffened at the question. The others only looked in confusion at both Naruto and Gaara. The loneliness was hell, wasn't it? Always asking yourself what your purpose was. You know nothing of what you speak, Gaara replied coldly. Kankuro and the girl trembled in fear. I understand far better than you think. We're the same, you and I. Naruto closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were blood red and slitted. Kankuro and the girl stepped back from the two. Gaara's eyes widened in surprise for a quick moment before he merely grunted in response and walked away, his companions trailing behind him. What was that about, boss? Asked Konohamaru, who was proud of his boss showing up the Uchiha prodigy. You were so cool. Unlike other times, Naruto didn't say anything for a long while, his eyes never leaving the retreating backs of the Sunanin, though they had since returned to their normal sapphire color. He then turned to Sasuke and Sakura with a frown on his face. That boy, he's like me. We have to let Kakashi-sensei know about this when we see him tomorrow. Sakura and Sasuke nodded in understanding. Konohamaru just looked at Naruto with a confused expression on his face. His friends were equally puzzled. What do you mean by that, boss? Naruto simply squatted down to face Konohamaru. I'll tell you, but now is not the time, all right? When I think you're ready, I'll tell you, all three of you, he said, pointing to Moegi and Udon as well. Konohamaru was about to protest, but Naruto quickly cut him off. I promise, Konohamaru. I vow on my dream to be Hokage, and our friendship, I will tell you eventually, just not right now. Konohamaru's smile threatened to cover his entire face. Not only had Naruto acknowledged him as Konohamaru instead of honorable grandson, but he truly considered Konohamaru to be a true friend, and perhaps a true rival as well. Sure thing, Naruto and I-san. Naruto couldn't keep the fox-like smile from showing on his face. Chapter 3. The Chunin exams begin. A name isn't everything. The members of Team 7 had shown up one by one, 2.5 hours after the arranged meeting time. After all, when your sensei is chronically late, you can't expect him to change his ways even for something as important as the announcement of the Chunin selection exams. Both Naruto and Sasuke were ready for the exams and were eagerly anticipating them. Sakura, on the other hand, was not. She had doubts of her own abilities. She had no illusions that she was the weakest link on their team. Her chakra control was the best, but she had far less chakra and stamina than Sasuke, whose own reserves paled in comparison to Naruto's. Of course, Naruto's chakra pool was so huge that even with the Jagan, controlling his massive power was still rather difficult, putting Sasuke and Naruto on an almost equal level if she was completely honest with herself. Of course, Sasuke knew and could perform more jutsus, but Naruto's were more unique and definitely nothing to laugh at, as she learned in Wave Country. Sasuke's superior skills were offset by Naruto's overwhelming power. "Yo," greeted Kakashi. "You're late," yelled Sakura. "Well, you see, I got lost on the road of life," he said. "Liar," she shouted. "You know, Sakura-chan, it's not like we've been waiting long. We just got here not too long ago ourselves," smirked Naruto. Sakura punched him on the back of the head. "Baka," she whispered to Naruto harshly. "Anyways, I have great news for you all," he said lazily. "You're entering us into the Chunin exams that takes place in 2 days?" asked Sasuke, though it was almost more of a statement. "Well, yes. How did you guess?" "We ran into a bit of trouble yesterday with the Suna team. They have someone like me on their team. His name is Gaara," Naruto informed Kakashi. Kakashi frowned. "I had heard rumors, but I'd have never have suspected the Kazekage's own son to be one. This may complicate things later." "Gaara is the Kazekage's son?" asked Sakura. "Yes, in fact, his teammates are his older brother and sister," Kakashi informed them. "It would be best to avoid him as much as possible during the exams, though that will be impossible once the third part of the exam starts." "Why is that, Kakashi-sensei?" asked Sakura. "Sorry, but I'm afraid I can't tell you that," said Kakashi. "Can't, or won't?" asked Naruto. "Either way, would it matter?" Sasuke asked Naruto. "We're not going to find out until we get that far." Naruto nodded his head. "Remember, it's each individual's choice whether or not to participate. I don't want to see any of you there unless you're absolutely ready," Kakashi warned them as he handed them their registration forms. "Don't worry about it, Kakashi-sensei. Just leave everything to us," said Naruto. "Naruto Baka," Sakura shouted, hitting him on the head. "This is serious. People have died in these exams." "But Sakura-chan, we're all a lot stronger now. Especially you. You're at least twice as powerful as you were when we first left for Wave Country. We've all grown a lot since then, but especially you," Naruto said sincerely. Sakura blushed with the bit of praise. Only she quickly became dismayed because it was Naruto, not Sasuke-kun, that complimented her and tried to raise her spirits. Kakashi smiled at the small byplay. Sasuke looked a bit annoyed and somewhat relieved that his most avid fangirl was finally moving on. "Thanks, Naruto," she said gratefully. "Well, I must be off. You have the rest of the day free," said Kakashi as he used Shunshin to teleport away in a swirl of leaves. "One of these days, I am going to learn how to do that," said Naruto under his breath. Sasuke nodded in agreement. "Hey, Sasuke-kun, would you like to do something tonight?" asked Sakura. "No," he coldly answered, slightly annoyed at her. Sakura frowned for a bit before deciding to turn to Naruto. "Hey, Naruto." He was already gone. "Even Naruto is leaving me behind now." She looked down at the ground and sulked as she left the training ground. Naruto watched her go with sad eyes. "You know, it looked like she was finally going to ask you out, Naruto," said Kakashi from behind the genin. "You've been waiting for that opportunity for so long. Are you just going to let her walk away?" "I do have some pride, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto sighed. "I am a lot of things: loud, annoying, and idiot. But I will not be Sasuke's replacement." "Fair enough, though I think you might be underestimating her though," said Kakashi. Naruto simply shrugged his shoulders in reply before setting out to find something to do for the rest of the afternoon. It wasn't long until Naruto found the Konohamaru core, or rather, they found him. "Naruto and Ai-chan, are you going to play ninja with us today?" asked Udon. "Yeah, you didn't play ninja with us the last time you said you would," accused Konohamaru. "Well, I would have if you hadn't gone and pissed off Sakura-chan like that," Naruto defended himself. "Then you had to go and pick a fight with that Suna bully." "I was only trying to get her to go out with you," exclaimed Konohamaru, now on the defensive. "I appreciate it, I really do, but Sakura-chan just doesn't feel that way about me," said Naruto. It wasn't lost on Moegi that he hadn't mentioned his own feelings for his teammate, and she decided to help out her own crush and call Naruto out on it. "What about you and Ai-chan? Don't you like her?" Naruto sighed. These kids would be the death of him one day. He was sure of it. "Listen, guys, I know what you're trying to do, but this is just something I have to deal with on my own." "You still didn't answer the question, boss," pointed out Konohamaru. "And I don't plan on it either," argued Naruto. The Konohamaru Corps all nodded in unison as they looked at each other. "Do it, Moegi." "Puppy dog eyes no jutsu," she shouted and gave Naruto that menacing stare that he knew he'd give in to. Before he could answer, though, Moegi was spirited away by an enemy shinobi. "Nichan," shouted Moegi. "Konohamaru-kun." "Boss, you gotta save her," shouted Konohamaru. "Right, just leave everything to me," said Naruto confidently as he took off after the other shinobi. After a short chase, Naruto confronted the enemy shinobi who had Moegi tied to a tree. "Drop out of the Chunin exams, or I'll kill the girl," said the ninja. "You're pathetic. I could beat you without even laying a finger on you," said Naruto confidently. "And how do you think you're going to accomplish that?" asked the ninja. "Look down," said Naruto as he puffed out of existence. Wadash. Anything else he was about to say was interrupted when Naruto burst from the ground. "Kukutan, Inochi Inku no Kabushi," shouted Naruto as he punched the ninja in the face. "I've improved more than you gave me credit for, haven't I, Irika-sensei?" The Konohamaru Corps looked at the enemy Nin in shock. The Nin dropped the henge. "Congratulations, Naruto. You passed, though how did you know it was me?" "Easy. I could tell by the feel of your chakra," he answered. "You can sense chakra signatures?" asked Irika, amazed. "That's incredible for one your age. Most jonin can't do that." Naruto smirked. "Since when was I ever a regular shinobi?" "You'll make a fine Hokage one day, Naruto," said Irika sincerely. "The best one ever, until Konohamaru here takes over for me," he said as he smirked, ruffling Konohamaru's hair. It took a moment for Konohamaru to register what Naruto had said, but then gave him a big grin before hugging him. "Do you mean that, boss?" asked Konohamaru. "You betcha, Konohamaru. It's the job of each Hokage to surpass the one before him. But don't think because you're my favorite rival that I'll make it easy for you. You're going to have to work extra hard to surpass me," Naruto told the young boy. "Don't worry, boss. Just leave everything to me," shouted Konohamaru. "When I become Hokage, I'm going to surpass all the ones that came before me. Believe it," he shouted, going into the nice guy pose. A/N. The opportunity was just way too good to pass up. Naruto and Irika's sweat dropped. "He's even stealing my catchphrases," Naruto thought with a deadpan look on his face. "Why don't we go out for some ramen in a bit? I have to file a report on your progress, Naruto, but I'll meet you all at Ichiraku's in about 10 minutes, all right?" said Irika, disappearing in a swirl of leaves. "Kuso, I really have to learn how to do that," thought Naruto as he and the Konohamaru Corps headed off to his favorite restaurant. Not too far away from where Naruto had saved Moegi. "How did they do?" asked Kakashi. "Spectacularly, I'm afraid," said Irika with a small sigh. "They've all progressed much farther than I thought they would in such a short time." "What did you think of Naruto's performance?" asked Kakashi lazily. His performance surprised me the most," said Irika with a slight smile. "He's really come far. How did he learn to sense chakra signatures in such a short time?" "Since Naruto trusts you so much, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you, though I'm sure Naruto would have preferred to tell you himself," said Kakashi. "He's awakened a Kekii Genkai. The only people who know are Sasuke, Sakura, Haku, myself, and the Sandame." Irika frowned. "But that means he must have a family after all." He then started to shake in rage. "All the time spent alone. His family all died during the QB attack, interrupted Kakashi. We just know for certain who they were. Who? Asked Irika, letting go of his anger. Arashi-sensei, said Kakashi. Why Yandame-sama? Irika gasped. Kakashi nodded. But that means. Kakashi nodded a second time. Irika regained control. How'd he take it? Not well at first, and that's to be expected, but he understood, said Kakashi. He actually took it better than I thought he would. So Naruto has the Jagan, said Irika wistfully. He then looked sad for a moment. You were right, Kakashi-san. You're just looking out for them, so there is no need to apologize, Kakashi assured him. Just keep in mind that they do have to grow up at some time. Now I believe you have to meet some Hokage candidates and their friends that are waiting for you to treat them to ramen. Naruto was the first to arrive on the day the exams began. He only had to wait 10 minutes before Sasuke, slightly trailed by Sakura, came into view. You ready, Dobe? Asked Sasuke arrogantly. You bet, team, said Naruto excitedly. Just don't cry when you end up in the hospital after the beating I'm going to give you in the exams. As if, I work harder getting out of bed in the morning than I would fighting you, he said confidently. A smirk appeared on his face. That's because you're too afraid to fight me anymore. You'd rather be lazy and stay in bed or practicing your stealth skills by escaping your fangirls, teased Naruto. You're just jealous because you don't have any, replied Sasuke. Take that back, yelled Naruto. As Team 7 entered the building, they failed to notice the blushing, pale-eyed member of Team 8 who had been watching them, or rather Naruto, from behind a corner of the building. She had frowned at Sasuke's remark because, while she didn't consider herself a fangirl, as that would be improper, she did admire Naruto a great deal. Hey Hinata, shouted her teammate. What are you doing? And nothing, Kiba-kun, she said hesitantly as her two teammates approached. Well, I guess we should go, huh? Asked Kiba. Then he got an excited look on his face. We are so going to kick so much ass. Provided you don't do anything too rash, Kiba, said Shino. Relax, how hard can it be? He asked. More than anything we might be able to handle. Do keep in mind, we are only rookie genins. Shino reminded him. It is logical to assume that we have the greatest chance of failing this exam, and your tendency to rush into things will only serve to hold us back. So I'm holding us back, huh? Asked Kiba dangerously. Please, don't fight. Hinata pleaded quietly. I'm sure Shino-kun didn't mean it like that. Hinata's right. For the time being, we have much more important things to worry about. Shino agreed, while Kiba merely grunted in acceptance. Team 7 had only gone up one floor when they were stopped by a group of people who were standing in front of the door. Sasuke was walking in between Sakura and Naruto, slightly ahead of them. In the middle of the group, they watched two people keeping people from entering the room. Sasuke looked up at the sign. It read 301. He looked back at Naruto, who simply nodded at him. Sasuke stepped in when the two ninja knocked down a kid wearing a green leotard and sported a bowl haircut and bushy eyebrows. You plan on taking the Chunin exams like that? What makes you think you're good enough? Asked a kid with spiky hair. You guys should just quit now, said a second kid right next to him. He wore his hitai like a bandana. You're all just little kids, the first one taunted. Please let us through, pleaded a girl with her hair in a double bun hairstyle. She was quickly knocked down by the two boys. Naruto recognized her instantly, as she was one of the people he trained in Kenjutsu with, and narrowed his eyes. She's much stronger than that, and her teammates are supposed to be strong too. What's going on? Listen, we're being nice. The Chunin exams aren't easy, said the first one. Of all those taking the exam, lectured the second, many will quit being shinobi, while others are unable to recover at all. We've seen it many times before. A Chunin is the level of military platoon captains, the failure of a mission and the death of his men. That is all the responsibility of the captain, explained the first. We're just thinning out the ranks of those that will fail anyway. What's wrong with that? Asked the second. I agree, said Sasuke stepping in, Naruto and Sakura trailing behind him. But, you'll let us pass through. Also, get rid of the Jinjutsu. We're going to the third floor. There was whispering throughout the room at this proclamation. Naruto was strangely relieved that Tenten's team was not among those surprised that there had been a Jinjutsu in place. So you noticed, asked the second kid, not surprised in the slightest. Sakura, you must have noticed it first, right? Sasuke had noticed the pink-haired Kunoichi was distracted as of late and knew that she'd be a liability if her lack of focus continued. It's not that he didn't like her, because he did. He just didn't like the way she tended to glomp on him and dote on him constantly, as if he were a small child. Your analytical skills and Jinjutsu identification abilities are the most advanced on our team. Thank you, Sasuke-kun, she said gratefully. Of course I already noticed. This is only the second floor. Even Naruto noticed it. I'm not that bad at Jinjutsu, Naruto declared. In truth, even with the Jagan, he was still not very good at Jinjutsu, but his skills, in recent weeks, had skyrocketed, and he knew it wouldn't be too long before he was at Sasuke's level at identifying and seeing through them without the Sharingan. He could dispel some weaker ones, but his chakra control was far too lacking to even preform the simplest of Jinjutsu. The only one he could really do consistently was the Hinge no Jutsu transformation technique, and that was only because of the constant training and use of his patented Kenjutsu, the Oiroke no Jutsu sexy technique. Not bad, replied the first, but all you really did was see through it. As he said this, he began to move to attack Sasuke. Noticing his movements, both Sasuke and Naruto tensed. Before anyone knew what happened, the green-clad boy had come in between Sasuke and the spiky-haired kid. Fast, thought a wide-eyed Sakura. It's like he's completely changed from the person who was getting knocked down just moments ago. As Sasuke and his impromptu opponent relaxed, Sasuke couldn't help but admire the green-clad Genin's skill. Catching that kick, that's some amazing chakra in his arms. Naruto was even more surprised than either of his teammates, because in the brief moment he used the Jagan, he had caught everything in detail. He didn't even use chakra. Even Sasuke can't move like that. In fact, he hardly felt any chakra coming from the boy, even less than a weak academy student. There was just barely enough for the kid to be alive. What happened to the plan? Asked the pale-eyed boy next to Tenten, whom Naruto surmised to be her other teammate. You're the one who said we shouldn't attract attention to ourselves. Well, the green-clad Genin began to explain as he looked over at Sakura. Sakura got a feeling of dread at the pit of her stomach. Oh no. So, they were hiding their abilities. I know how strong Tenten can be, and this guy doesn't appear to be too weak either. I can't help but wonder how strong that other guy is. Naruto thought to himself. Meanwhile, the green-clad kid walked up to Sakura. My name is Rock Lee. So, yours is Sakura, said Lee as if stealing up his courage. He then started to blush and gave her a thumbs up. Will you be my girlfriend? He asked as he smiled at her and gave her a wink. I shall protect you always, until I die. And no? What? Said Sakura, more than a little freaked out. Rock Lee just put his head down in shame. Naruto gave him a sympathetic smile. After all, he knew how it felt to be rejected. Hey you, said the pale-eyed boy directing his eerie gaze at Sasuke. What is your name? Sizing up the competition, I see, thought Naruto, looking at the boy intently. When you want to learn someone's name, you should give your own first, said Sasuke in an arrogant tone. You're a rookie, right? Asked the pale-eyed boy. How old are you? I don't have to answer to you, replied Sasuke as the other boy narrowed his eyes. What? The pale-eyed boy asked coldly, as Tenten giggled at their little standoff. Sasuke arrogantly turned his back on the boy. Hey Naruto, Sasuke-kun, let's go, said Sakura excitedly. Naruto turned to Tenten. After this is all over, do you want to train some more Tenten? Asked Naruto, who received strange looks from his and Tenten's teammates. Hayate-sensei says I've improved, but my technique still pretty much sucks. Sure thing, Naruto, she smiled at the blonde Genin. While he wasn't anywhere near as good as she was, he was improving at an incredibly fast pace. She still couldn't believe how far he had come in a matter of a few weeks. She was almost certain he was training every bit as much as he could with that sword of his. Naruto, how do you know her? Asked Sakura. After Kakashi-sensei gave me my father's sword, he set me up with some extra Kenjutsu training with Hayate-sensei and Tenten. From what I'm told, her sensei is something of a rival of Kakashi-sensei's, and so he jumped at the chance of helping out with my extra training. Naruto informed them. Kakashi-sensei said something about me being able to use a sword would help. Dibbers. Diversify? Asked Sakura, trying to help out her teammate. Yeah, that, Naruto said, smiling. Anyways, he said it would make us better as a team, with Sasuke's numerous ninjutsu and your skills with dealing with Jinjutsu. He said my being able to do Kenjutsu would make us harder to defeat. As they headed down the hall, Sasuke couldn't help but think about all the skilled Genin he had already met. All these skilled opponents. Things look like they're going to be interesting. It wasn't long until they heard someone behind them. You? With the dark eyes, hold on. The trio turned to see the genin in the green leotard behind them on a platform above them. Naruto raised an eyebrow, Sakura cringed, and Sasuke remained impassive. What? Would you fight me? Right here, right now? Lee said with a determined look on his face. A fight? Here and now? Asked Sasuke. Yes, Lee replied as he jumped over the banister and landed about a dozen feet from them. My name is Rock Lee. When you want to learn a person's name, you give your own first, right? Uchiha Sasuke. So you know? Asked Sasuke, now intrigued. I want to fight you, said Lee, taking a defensive stance. I want to test just how far my techniques will go against a prodigy of a genius ninja clan. Lee then turned to Sakura, who cringed in fear and was beginning to freak out. Plus, he said as he blushed, Sakura-san, love? Ew. That was Sakura's limit as she began to freak out. Hitch those eyebrows. Just, ew. You are an angel, Lee said to her, oblivious to her obvious distaste. Just, no, ew. Stay away, she shouted at the bushy-eyebrowed boy. You know, you don't have to be so negative, said Lee, dismayed at her rejection. Sasuke scoffed at Lee, challenging me, knowing the Uchiha name. You are a fool. You will learn what that name means, bushy brows, said a now scowling Sasuke. Great, smirked Lee as he changed into his Goken, strong fist, stance. Finally, Guy-sensei, I shall prove myself. Don't do it, Sasuke. Warned Naruto. Want him for yourself, Naruto? Asked Sasuke, an arrogant look on his face. He wouldn't have challenged you if he didn't think he would win. Sasuke, names and bloodlines will only get you so far, said Naruto. Rock Lee smiled at this. Shut up, Naruto, scolded Sakura. Sasuke-kun is one of the best genins there is. Not to mention with the Sharingan, he's practically unstoppable. Suit yourself, but I know what I saw, he said, turning to them so Lee would not see the distinctive glow of the Jagan underneath his black headband. Then I'll just have to prove you wrong now, won't I, Naruto, said Sasuke. Though he had not voiced it, that had been a cheap jibe against Naruto's own bloodline limit. Sasuke was insinuating that the Jagan was somehow inferior to the Sharingan. Naruto's only thought at why the eye was not calling for Sasuke's blood was either because it did not catch the veiled insult, which he doubted, or it was content with the fact that Sasuke was about to be beaten to a pulp because of his arrogant overconfidence. Ready? Asked Sasuke, turning his attention back to Rock Lee. Naruto watched the fight in interest, the Jagan open underneath the headband. With Lee's attention fully on Sasuke, he figured it would be safe enough to use to learn that he could. Sasuke charged Lee, who was waiting patiently. Sasuke threw a punch that was easily blocked by Lee. Sasuke planted his hand on the floor to attempt a whirlwind kick on Lee when the bushy-browed boy countered. Konoha Reppu Leaf Gale, shouted Lee as he did a sweep. Sasuke pushed up with his arm, flipping away from his opponent. Sakura looked amazed, while Naruto looked completely unsurprised, as Sasuke and Lee were now staring at each other. He's strong, thought Sakura as she watched the boy nearly beat Sasuke-kun in the exchange. While he did not win, he definitely came out with the upper hand. I'll say this, there is no way you can defeat me, said Lee with all seriousness in his expression, because, right now, I am the strongest among the Konoha genin. Sasuke narrowed his eyes, and then grunted as he smirked. Let's see just how strong you are. Sasuke got ready to go in for another exchange. Sasuke-kun, we don't have time. We have to be at the reception desk in less than 30 minutes, said Sakura worriedly. Don't worry, he said with a serious look on his face. I'll be done in 5 minutes. He then charged at Lee a second time. As he went to punch the green-clad genin, he disappeared. What? Incredible, and without the use of chakra, thought Naruto with an excited look in his eyes. Konoha de Zenpu, Leaf Great Whirlwind, shouted Lee as he kicked at Sasuke's head. Sasuke narrowly ducked before a second kick came straight at him. I can't dodge, Sasuke frantically thought. I'll have to block. What? Lee's follow-up kick not only broke through Sasuke's guard, but tore through it like a rock through paper. Sasuke-kun, shouted Sakura as Sasuke was sent flying and landed straight on his back. He blocked that attack, she thought as she watched Sasuke struggle to stand. What the hell is going on? Sasuke said as he picked himself off the ground. He went right through my guard. Was that a ninjutsu or a jinjutsu? Fine, It's time for me to get serious, said Sasuke, both eyes blazing with his two Tomo Sharingan. The Sharingan, said Sakura amazed. All the training on the way back from Wave was paying off as Sasuke could now call up the Sharingan at will, almost on instinct. Sasuke-kun is incredible. Sasuke-kun can't lose to this guy, said Sakura excitedly. Just watch. Lee's about to prove why you can't rely on a name and bloodlines, said Naruto. Before Sasuke could charge a third time, Lee kicked him in the chin, sending Sasuke flying up into the air. But the Sharingan, stuttered Sakura. A name isn't everything, Sakura, said Naruto as they watched Sasuke's airborne ascent. The Sharingan can't read it, thought Sasuke. That means his moves. My moves are neither ninjutsu, nor are they jinjutsu, said Lee as he prepared the next sequence of his attack. Sasuke managed to land on his feet, but Lee was already on the attack, now charging Sasuke. Sasuke could now only hopelessly dodge Lee's attacks, but no matter what he did, Lee was still connecting with several solid shots. Sasuke backed away after taking an extra strong elbow attack from Lee. My techniques are simple taijutsu, Sasuke-kun. Just as I thought, Naruto said quietly. What do you mean? Asked Sakura. Just watch. We're about to learn the true difference between him and us, Naruto told her as Lee disappeared only to reappear behind Sasuke. You may not believe it, because it's so simple, said Lee, who then jumped to dodge an attack from Sasuke. Kyuso, Sasuke said, gritting his teeth. It's said that the Sharingan can read all types of ninjutsu, jinjutsu, and taijutsu, lectured Lee. Because ninjutsu and jinjutsu require you to summon chakra and hand seals to preform, you can easily defend against them. But taijutsu is different. What do you mean? Asked Sasuke. Even if you can read my movements with your Sharingan, your body still lacks the speed to react to my taijutsu. It doesn't matter if you can see it. If your body can't keep up, it's useless, explained Lee. I believe there are two types of people amongst the strong. The hardworking types and the genius types. Your Uchiha blood is a genius type because of your Sharingan, while I am simply a hardworking type who has mastered only taijutsu. Sasuke's frustration came to a boil as he angrily charged Lee. Lee was still lecturing while dodging Sasuke's attacks. It could be said that my ultimate taijutsu is the worst possible matchup for your Sharingan. With that, Lee knocked Sasuke into the air again with a solid kick to the chin and then jumped after him. Kagebuyo, shadow of the dancing leaf. Lee was now soaring parallel to Sasuke's back. I shall now prove it with this technique that hard work surpasses genius skills. Lee's bandages began to unravel and ensnare Sasuke. I win. Before Lee could complete his move, a pinwheel cut through the air, pinning his bandages to the wall. Naruto cursed. He had been so intently watching the match, or rather Sasuke getting his ass handed to him, that he didn't sense anyone approaching. He immediately deactivated the Jagan, hoping the newcomer didn't see the teal glow through the headband. That's enough, Lee, shouted a red and yellow turtle with a very angry expression on his face. Lee immediately landed while Sasuke continued towards the floor, his neck about to break his fall. Sasuke-kun, shouted Sakura as she moved to catch Sasuke. Are you alright, Sasuke-kun? She asked with genuine concern. Even with the Jagan, I could barely keep up with his movements. I don't think even if Sasuke and I worked together that we could beat him, thought Naruto. Meanwhile, Sasuke was glaring at Rock Lee's back. Lee, that technique is forbidden, scolded the turtle. A talking turtle, thought Naruto, his attention on Lee and the newcomer, not wanting to witness Sakura fawning over Sasuke, ensuring he was alright. I'm sorry. I hadn't planned on. Lee tried to apologize, but was cut off. Fool, do you think you can really get off on some silly excuse? Said the turtle disapprovingly. You know well that a shinobi should not reveal his special techniques, said the turtle. Now are you prepared for your punishment? Yes, said a downtrodden Lee. Watching the interplay between the genin and the tortoise, Naruto came to a strange conclusion. Sakura-chan, can turtles be senseis? Asked Naruto in a whisper. Sakura looked at him as if he'd started sprouting tails. How the heck should I know if turtles can be senseis? She hissed at him. All right, said the turtle. Here comes Guy Sensei. There was a poof of smoke above the turtle, and Team 7 and Rock Lee were now looking at a bigger version of Lee. The man was about 2 heads taller, but he had the same bowl haircut and bushy eyebrows. I can see the flames of youth burning brightly in each of you. That guy is even lamer than the kid, said Sasuke with a bewildered look on his face. Had he turned to look at them, he'd have noticed Sakura and Naruto's expressions were the same. Super thick eyebrows, super bowl cut, was all Sakura could manage to get out. Those have got to be the biggest eyebrows I've ever seen, said Naruto. I think they might be alive. Lee turned around, rage and fury written all over his face. Hey, stop insulting Guy-sensei, he shouted at Team 7. With all these freaks showing up all over the place, how else are we supposed to react? Shouted Sakura. What did you? He asked, shaking a fist. Obviously, Lee's infatuation with Sakura didn't stand up to the respect he had for Mato Guy. Lee, stop, said Guy with a small smile on his face. Yes, Guy-sensei, said Lee. Guy's expression turned serious as he shouted at Lee. You fool. He then punched Lee in the jaw, sending his mini-clones soaring through the air. Lee, you are. Sensei, said Lee as he stood up, tears streaming down his face. Lee, he shouted with tears streaming down his face. Guy-sensei, I. That's enough, Lee. You don't have to say any more, as a sandy beach with a sunset appeared around them. Sensei, Lee shouted as he hugged Guy. Lee. Wadash, Sakura blurted out. Air, Naruto grunted. I. Lost. Too. This guy. Sasuke stuttered. Yes, this is what youth is all about, said Guy. Sensei. It's all right, Lee. Youth and mistakes go together. Forget about it, consoled Guy. You are too kind, Guy-sensei, sniffled Lee. Now, towards the sunset, I want 100 laps around the training grounds, said Guy, pointing towards the mysterious appearing sunset. Lee straightened up. Yes, Guy-sensei. Let's go. Yes. What about Chunin exam? Asked Sakura. There isn't enough time. What? Oh yeah, said Guy with a sheepish expression on his face. Lee, your punishment for starting a fight and attempting to use a forbidden technique will take place after the Chunin exams. Yes, said Lee, saluting Guy. The call of youth. 500 laps, shouted Guy, striking a pose. So tell me, how is Kakashi-sensei doing? You're his rival, right? Asked Naruto. He is my eternal rival, said Guy. Yeah, right, said Sakura disbelievingly. Sasuke didn't look like he believed Guy either, while Naruto was a bit undecided. At first glance, Guy looked like a moron, but after watching Lee pick apart Sasuke, he knew looks could be deceiving. If Guy-sensei says, shouted Lee back, but he was stopped by Guy. Don't worry about it, Lee. Actions speak louder than words, Guy told him. Naruto and Sasuke's eyes widened as Guy simply disappeared. If I'm not mistaken, my records is 50 wins and 49 losses in my favor. Team 7 each spun around, surprised looks on their faces. That means I am better than Kakashi. His speed? It's incredible, thought Naruto. He's faster than Kakashi, observed Sasuke. You see? Isn't Guy-sensei incredible? Shouted Lee. Sorry about Lee. I swear by this face, it will not happen again, Guy promised as he smiled at Team 7, his teeth sparkling in the light. You guys and Lee should be in the classroom soon. He threw a kunai and knocked the pinwheel off the wall, releasing Lee's bandages. Naruto watched as Lee re-wrapped his hand. He doubted the others noticed it, but he saw the scars and the callus on Lee's knuckles. Even without using the Jagan, he noticed the hard work and dedication that Lee put into his training. He's a true genius of hard work, thought Naruto. Good luck, Lee, later, Guy shouted as he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kyuso, said Naruto, more than slightly annoyed. I have to find someone to teach me that. Everyone in the room looked at Naruto oddly. Neither Sasuke nor Sakura could ever get Naruto's obsession with learning Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, though Sasuke had to admit he wanted to learn it almost as badly as Naruto, not that he'd ever admit that out loud. Sasuke-kun, I shall say only one last thing, Rock Lee said as he went to leave. The truth is, while I have come here to test my abilities, I lied before. I am not the best Genin Konoha has to offer, though the strongest Genin is most likely to be on my team. I have entered this exam to defeat him, but you are also one of my targets. Be prepared during the exam, Lee said as he jumped to the upper level and ran off to rejoin his teammates. Sasuke looked frustrated, so Sakura decided to try and comfort him. Sasuke-kun. Name and blood aren't everything, are they, Sasuke? Asked Naruto, his face the picture-perfect definition of seriousness. His tone was even, as he decided not to look or sound smug, despite the Jagan's nudges. Naruto, shouted Sakura. Shut up, Sasuke growled through clenched teeth. Next time, I'll beat him. Sure, although you just got your ass kicked, said Naruto with a deadpan expression on his face. Naruto, you. Sakura began to berate the blonde-haired Triclops. Ignoring Sakura, Naruto looked at Sasuke. Did you see it? His hand, judging by their looks of astonishment and confusion, neither had. Bushy brows must have been training hard, day in and out, more so than any of us. That's all I meant. Sakura looked at Sasuke, her eyes filled with concern as his fist tightened. The Chunin exams. They are becoming more interesting, Sasuke said with a determined smile. Sakura smiled as well, and Naruto was now wearing a small smirk. Shall we get going? The three teammates walked down the halls, towards their destinies, not knowing the path of darkness that awaited them in the very near future. Chapter 4. The Rookie 9 United, Trials and Tribulations. It didn't take Team 7 long to reach the real room 301. When they arrived, however, they were greeted by none other than their sensei, Hatake Kakashi. I'm glad to see you made it as well, Sakura, he said lazily, reading his little orange book, Ika Paradise Volume 3. You can now officially register for the Chunin exams, Kakashi informed them. At the looks of confusion, he continued, this exam can only be taken by teams of 3. But you said it was up to us whether or not we wanted to take it or not, said Sakura. Yes, I did, Kakashi answered. You lied? Asked Sakura uncertainly. Not exactly, Sasuke answered her. It was your choice whether you wanted to take the exam or not. But he didn't want either me or Naruto forcing you to take the exam. Exactly, said Kakashi, who added after seeing Naruto's betrayed look. Even if you two wouldn't force her into taking the exam, she would have felt as if she was holding you back, and thus would have felt obligated to take the exam to keep from doing so. All of them accepted this explanation. So, if only Naruto and Sasuke came, then what would have happened? Asked Sakura. I would have prohibited them from taking the exams and not allowed them entry into the next room, said Kakashi. But each of you came here of your own free will. Well done, I am proud to have each of you on my team. He smiled, though you could only tell due to the curve of his only visible eye, and moved to allow them entry.